Welcome to Conservation Fridays. Today we have Julia Kirkwood, the Senior Environmental Quality Analyst from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, Water Resource Division, Nonpoint Source Pollution Program. Julia has worked as a natural resource professional for 30 years. For the past 20 years, she has worked in EGLE's Nonpoint Source Pollution Program, collaborating with community stakeholders and program staff to protect and restore rivers and lakes from land use impacts through the watershed planning process. She serves on multiple statewide inland lake partnerships and is the chair of the Michigan Natural Shoreline Partnership. Julia is also a longtime resident of Berry County.
We'll share my screen. Yeah. All right, hello everybody. Today I'll be talking a little bit just about some basics of seawall impacts. This topic is much broader than a 15-minute conversation, so I'll just try to keep it short and clear, and then also give you some follow-up areas to learn more information about the next steps. So one thing to think about shorelines and our inland lakes is that in natural lakes that there is one thing that we'll never see around a lake, and that is lawn. So it's not naturally meant to be there. What you will see are on these different lakes are different layers of vegetation, and every lake varies. You'll have our aquatic vegetation, which has a purpose, and kind of moving up towards the lake, a lot of times you'll have that wetland vegetation. And then looking onto the land is our upland vegetation, which consists of trees. At the edge, particularly the shrub layer, which is really critical. And then our ground layer as well. You're looking at something like your wildflowers, your ferns, etc. So when you think about natural systems, think about that when you go to see what's not there. All of these plants have root structures that are utilized to protect our shorelines from erosion. They stabilize our banks, they provide habitat, they protect from nutrient runoff as well. But that root structure is most critical for protecting our shorelines because a little bit of our basic anatomy, and that toe is where the water meets the land. And that is a critical piece. And then in between, and then up slope is your shoulder, and then the slope in between. And that slope is going to be very different between the lakes. But that toe is what is going to be eroding. And if you look at the root structure, those plants hold that in place and the waves come in. Once the plants are removed, that toe starts eroding. And you can see in this quick little video here, as the waves come in, they're a little bigger, and then the aquatic plants in the lake help absorb wave energy before they hit the shoreline. So those aquatic plants are really critical in protecting your shoreline. You can see in this picture, the whitecaps out in the lake as they are coming in, they hit the aquatic plants. And by the time the waves meet the shore, they are just a little ripple. The reason why they're all important is you can see in this little picture here, turf grass invites erosion. The root structure is only about 3-4 inches deep in most cases, and it is not designed to be at the lakeshore, and is not designed to withstand the energy of lakes coming in. So what happens is the waves come in and start undercutting the root structure, and it keeps pushing your shoreline back. Then people want seawalls or think they need seawalls. So this is just a quick short little video showing the waves now. All the aquatic plants are gone. All the vegetation right at the edge is gone as well. So the waves come in and it starts eroding the shoreline back. And we refer to this as accelerated erosion. Lake shores do erode naturally, but it's over generally a longer period of time. In this case, this is what we refer to as human caused accelerated erosion. So back to our anatomy of our shoreline, another issue is unnatural lake levels from lake level control structures or filling of wetlands, or what we call lake floodplains as well. So you might feel a wet spot on your lake. Well, that water's got to go somewhere, and the lake needs to change because there is still the same amount of water, or there, particularly on lakes with lake level control structures, it raises the lake up unnaturally and it creates a new toe. So that toe, the original toe, needs to change, and that will start scouring away and eating back away your shoreline. So our number one threat to our inland lakes across the state is nearshore habitats. 50% of them are indicated as being in poor condition according to our National Lake Assessment. And compared to that to nutrients, it means that we have a bit of a gap. 70% of our lakes in southern Michigan are intensely developed. This map comes from the Midwest Glacial Lakes Partnerships Lake Conservation Planner tool. Levels of shoreline disturbance starts at 30% in being the high category. All those red darts are the ones that are 30% or above in that disturbance zone. You can go to this site, the Midwest Glacial Lakes Partnership Lake Conservation Planner tool, and you can click on your own lake. And in Berry County itself, it's pretty hard pressed to find a lake that has less than 30% shoreline disturbance. So this is an example of what happens with seawalls, why they become a problem. The waves come in and they hit the seawall, and people feel like they need seawalls. So the waves come in, that energy has to go someplace. It doesn't just disappear. So that energy goes down and starts scouring out the bottom. There's a lot of, tends to be a lot of habitat at the bottom of that lake for what we refer to as fish food, fish spawning areas, turtle areas, salamander areas, areas where other waterfowl will come in and feed as well. So again, this is called scouring. The next thing too is wave flanking. The energy is directed downward as well as directed sideways. So if you put in a seawall or your neighbor puts in a seawall, the waves are going to flank off that seawall and cause erosion on that neighboring property. So then it elicits, hey, I need a seawall too. So the amount of seawalls keep growing and growing when in fact, you really didn't need one in the first place. So the biggest thing with with seawalls is prevention. So many lakes do not need a seawall. Keep that native vegetation there and that root structure. When you put seawalls in as well, it also limits the habitat, not just from the wave scouring, but particularly for turtles they have to get out onto land to lay their eggs. And if they cannot do that, then they're not going to be able to have more turtles. And if there's only a few places where turtles can actually get out of the lake to lay their eggs, raccoons and skunks and other wildlife that eat their eggs are going to know exactly where those are and come in and eat all of their eggs. So you're decreasing the population. So what to do is bioengineering, we refer to that, and it's a huge continuum of options, way from really low energy options to much higher level energy options. And in these pictures are indicating all three different types of energy. The one at the top left is way out on Muskegon Lake. We're almost right next to Lake Michigan. The one on the right is in Paw Paw, and the one on the bottom is a large lake up in Northwest Michigan. So these options can be utilized to protect against accelerated erosion and avoid putting in a seawall. So this is just a little example of one site that was utilized bioengineering. This site is over 10 years old. You can see the waves coming in, gently rolling up that rock and into the plants a little bit compared to where it was on, if you look at the seawall, you can see the waves hitting that seawall and just kind of being pushed up instead of gently rolling up. So this is the kind of design that we are trying to advocate for and have people think about installing rather than concrete seawalls. So more information can be found on Michigan Natural Shoreline Partnership's website. We have a lot of resource materials on there. There's little videos. All the little videos I've shown should be there. You can get to a lot of different resources. There are some presentations as well if you want to learn more the details about higher energy. You can find those underneath our Shoreline and Shallows conference. We also have the Michigan Shoreland Stewards Program. This is an online survey that you can take to assess your property and see how well you're doing or not, and see if your lake property qualifies. Another thing you can look at is our EGLE's, Environment Great Lakes and Energy's website under shoreline protection. You can just Google that. There is a lot of information on, you can find permit information. Any construction at the shoreline needs a permit. That includes bioengineering techniques. There are fact sheets as well about different bioengineering techniques and impacts of seawalls. And then there's also this story map. We have begun highlighting a lot of different types of projects and across the state. We'll be populating them more, but you can go on and see kind of some before pictures and after pictures, and even some permit information too. Also, you can find some general design options related to permits on EGLE's website. So with that, I've let you know, again, just connect with the Michigan Natural Shoreline Partnership. And if you have any questions, just contact me. And if I can answer them, I will. And if not, I will find out who can answer that.
Thank you so much for that. We have one question in the chat right now.
Okay.
Are there any programs for helping to cost share the removal and replacement of seawalls with natural shorelines?
It is very limited particularly for inland lakes. There are some Nonpoint Source Pollution Grant programs. However, those need to be prioritized in the watershed management plan. DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, has an aquatic habitat grant as well. A lot of times, they're focused on fish habitat. So if you were going to remove seawalls, it's not going to be just, hey, just do a 25-foot seawall. But if you're looking at maybe a couple 100 feet of removing seawalls and installing healthier practices as well as woody habitat, that might be a good project to look for as well. But it is incredibly limited for grants.
Definitely. We have another question. What's the easiest thing a homeowner can do to improve their shoreline? I'm going to assume this means they do not have a seawall already.
Okay. The easiest thing, if you have lawn up to the edge, is add some shrubs, some trees, and some grasses and sedges at the edge. On the Shoreline Partnership's website, we do have a list of recommended plants. Shrubs are really critical, and there are some amazing flowering shrubs that also produce berries in the spring, and they're really easy to trim up. So to keep them a little more managed look. Always think of trees as well, and then the grasses and structure, and there's. Oh, I want to mention also on the Shoreline Partnership's website, we do have a list of certified natural shoreline professionals that have gone through the Shoreline Partnership's training for natural shoreline professionals. There are throughout the state. Some areas have more than others, and obviously some contractors have more experience than others. So you always have to contact more than one.
Yeah. I will say I went through that training in 2018 and really enjoyed it. I've got to install a few shorelines, so I'll be sending those to you for the story map as they start to bloom and come up a little more.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's about I think we can allow like 5 pictures on there. So if there's like a later one that we could, Eric Calabro with EGLE, he's the one that manages it for the most part, but it's nice to see how they progress over time as well. So rather than just having pictures, hey, day of installation. Like this picture you're looking at, you can see where all the rock is and what's called a coir fiber log, rolled coconut fiber. Took a picture last fall of that site, and it's all plants now. Like you would never know that amount of rock. Basically, the sediment comes in and fills in all the spaces, and the plants grow out. So it's pretty. If it's designed correctly and for the correct site, it should be able to work.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But a lot of depends. A lot of depends.
Right, yeah, because things can happen, and of course, you know, your neighbor's property, and for example, our most recent installation, the neighbor's dog kept coming in, so they had to put a fence up because I told them these plants are just, they really can't handle a lot of pee right now.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But it's looking good. So thank you so much. I'm not seeing any more questions. So we're gonna go ahead and end the recording.